Disclaimer: the information and education material contained herein is meant to promote the general understanding and dialogue of GAN's processing. Such information is not meant or intended to serve as a substitute for a healthcare professional's clinical training, experience, or judgment. For patients and individuals, such information is not to be a substitute for professional medical, therapeutic, or healthcare advice or counseling. For medical issues or concerns, including decisions about medications and other treatments, readers, viewers, listeners should always consult their physician or, in serious cases, seek immediate assistance from emergency personnel. Prescription information, procedures, and use of medical devices information should be undertaken only by properly trained and certified medical personnel. We specifically disclaim any warranties, express or implied, including implied warranties of merchantability or fitness for a particular purpose. Such information is provided, as is, and is believed to be accurate at the time of its publishing, but it is the viewer's job to evaluate the accuracy of any information found in this presentation. Every case presented is of their own experience, applied by themselves for themselves, and it applies to their case only. Every person experiencing health problems should seek professional medical advice and consult their course of treatment with a doctor. The processes of plasma balancing described herein are a natural process which supports the body but does not replace medical advice or therapies one is already subject to.
You'll find out in space we will not sleep, that's for sure. We rest to recuperate from the transition of the fields within the body of the man. And we have tuned it to the time of the darkness or nighttime, most of us. And in that process, when we are in the spaces, there is no day and night, it's a continuous line of life. The process of the regeneration and absorption of the fields from the environment will not allow man man does not need to rest to recuperate. And in that process, the soul of the man and the soul of physicality are always co-working, they're together. Now, when we say that the soul of the man is freer, it's not that free, it's freer to travel the span of the what we call creation, when the physicality is recuperating and is at weakest, is what we see, what we observe. But doesn't mean that the soul of the man escapes from the body of the man. It is still expands beyond it, but the physicality becomes part of it. This is one of the reasons we remember part of our, what I call dream, where our soul interacts with the other souls, and in communication between its boundary and its center, our body is in the middle of it. It doesn't escape. There's no escapism in this process. It's becoming encircled with it. When we are awake, we encapsulate the soul. When we go to sleep or weaken what we call the strength of the fields of the physicality, then the soul of the man increases its dominion. And now, if you look at it, here the physicality was. Now the physicality becomes within. And as the interaction of the soul of the man with the other souls takes place, because it's a field interaction, it creates an emotion between the boundaries. Like when you touch a fire, you feel it, it sends the emotion to the center. And the soul of the physicality of the man is in between. So this interaction between this and this, what they call the boundaries, the interaction of the dimension of the interface of the soul of the man when the body of the man is weaker, with its center to communicate, man picks up some of the signals, we call it a dream. Now we are encircled, where in the time of what we call awakeness or being there, but this still functions. This still has an aura of it, but not so much that this is at the time of a sleep. So in a way, we don't let loose anything. We just understand it. And part of our teaching is for you this position, this cycle. Man up to now has lived in this cycle. But now you can control it. Then you communicate through the soul with all the souls around you, where you don't need physicality. Physicality has a dimension, vision, what we call maybe sound. But with the soul, you don't have that. You go beyond, and through the fields, you can interact and communicate. And these are the same with the others. That's the difference. Now, this is what we understand, and we don't need to engage. And this is especially what we'll see with this will be when you go into the enhancement units. This is what you will see. This is what will baffle you as light. And one thing for sure, not all lights in a dimension inside the enhancement units will be the same color. Because this, in a way, will show part of your emotion. This is how we interact with the others in the universe. From the interaction of the fields, we gather their emotion, what they think, what they want, what is the reaction. That's how we see the dreams in ourselves. So in this process, we'll see different colors, and we know the true intention of the man inside. When you ask, are you in love with the Creator, and what is your intention with your work? I am a Ayatollah, or I am a Pope. My intention to rob and deceive the humanity will show a different color than the one which says, I'm here to serve humanity. Now we know each color what it means. There'll be no one lying into the machine after all soul. Then you ask the world leaders to enter these systems. And then you see the true intention of the president, the king, the rabbi, the ayatollahs, and the popes and the priests. It's not a lie detector, it's the true intention of life explanation. I wonder, once the unit arrives in Tehran and we ask the ayatollahs to walk in, how many of them will walk in, or they call it the Satan system, because it unravels their intention. The same in Vatican, and the same in Jerusalem, and in China. Then people understand the man who has nothing to hide will walk in.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 541st Knowledge Seekers Workshop here on Thursday, June 6, 2024. This is a broadcast of the Keshe Foundation, Spaceship Institute, Education Department, and part of the public teachings in English. My name is Rick Crammond, and I will be host once again in this weekly series of ongoing workshops that's been ongoing now for over 10 years. And we have the pleasure of having Mr. Mehran Keshe as our presenter and teacher here today. And I think he's ready to go to present the workshop. Hello, Mr. Keshe, are you there?
Yes, thank you very much. Good morning, good day to you as usual. Wherever and whenever you listen to this series of knowledge seekers from Keshe Foundation, Spaceship Institute. And we are back with hopes of learning more and sharing more, and hopefully to understand a little bit more about our own world of creation. In the past few weeks, as we talk about the DNA and what we call transformation of our energies through what we call the nitrogen to cosmic rays, and our connection to other points, and in a way a conversion inside the body of the man, we have to realize an essential point. Every structure has a DNA. A stone, body of the man. As we know with the trees, as they carry different combinations of fields and energies, the stars, the galaxies, what we call to have a formation combination. In the human body, we call it DNA. In a universal structure, is the same. It's a building blocks of a bigger structure. We see with our eyes the galaxies. We see with our eyes the stars in the galaxies. These are all part of the structure of the bigger DNA of building that universe. Because our universe, again, has a DNA. It has a specific combination. That combination leads to a life. So DNA, what we call as a DNA structure of body of man, is a small scale structure in a given pattern that applies to every living things in the universe. Man only has concentrated to understand about his life, his structure of life. Stone has the same. This solar system has its own structure of DNA because it leads to production of the same things repetitively and can be replicated inside it. We see bigger stars as the boundaries, smaller stars and the other boundaries, and sometimes inside smaller compact structure in the center, but they're all placed in the same position. If the world of the science start looking at galaxies, they'll see the same structure. All galaxies have the same structure, the same as body of the man, because there's a rhythm, there's a structure to it. And then you have a connection, hidden connection, we call it the DNA. It's the same, how they communicate with each other, how they place each other. This becomes important in the structure of some DNA, some RNAs. We call it genetically modified. We modify plants, we call it cloning in the world of animal, which is actually the same as genetic modification in the wheat or the rice. We just chose the same or different names for the same process. We got to realize the same process exists when is force. We modify, we created what call it cloning a new animal, but it can repeat itself the same, and you don't know which one is the original one because they're all the same. But we do it in a different way in the matter state too. We create a cup, we create a fork, we create a car. All these is the same modification, but we enforce the change. We make 1 million of one cup, 100 millions of spoon. But that structure has again DNA, and again the structure to keep itself together has a soul. In a way, has a point of balance and communication, has a point of confirmation. And this goes back again, if you remember, a few times I have referred to it, to the couple in Italy, where the guy was trying, forcing his face, trying to move the cup in front of it. In fact, if he could have realized this is a man-made, genetically modified structure which has a soul, if I could get in touch with that point, if I could connect with it, I could move the cup. Then you understand you don't need to create field forces of matter state to move. This is important because when it comes to moving you in transmutation, when it comes for you to move in transmutation, and you want to go from A to B on this planet, your DNA stays about the same. Your emotion stays because you're within the same condition, atmospheric condition. You have known this atmospheric condition. Your DNA, your RNA, your soul, a combination of creation of your soul of physicality, is a structure to fit this environment. So you have to remember in that process, oh, you left a pen in your pocket, the key of the house in New York is in your pocket, it better be there, because when you manifest yourself in New York, you need it. Living in London, we usually put it in a wallet, we put it in our suitcase, that when we get there, the keys will be with me. Now, in that process of transmutation, you have to create a common denominator position, that the key when you arrive in New York is with you. When you get there, the shirt and the clothes is on you. You bought summer clothes. When you get to a position where you are now is a winter time, so you don't want to manifest yourself in a hot place with a fur coat. Then this comes to a lot of things that you as knowledge seekers who start this process go back to common denominator. The same says, I made man in the image of myself. The truth is, I made the universe in the image of myself. Because everything has a soul, and the image of the creator is the essence of his creation, not the manifestation of his creation. And if you understand this, if man reaches to that point, then you understand when you arrive in the hot place, the soul of emotion, knowing that you need the temperature will be warm there, what is in your suitcase, which is needed for that point of manifestation, will manifest to please you. The same as the way the guy was moving the cup with the forces which wasn't there, but he could get in touch with that through the soul of the entity. And I said, and I mentioned many times before, you say, I want to be pleased by pleasing you, that you move. It comes to the same point. Because as we enter the dimension of transmutation, all these things come together. It's no use me, you having a beautiful fur coat in a warm in a cold place and you turn up in a warm place with no clothing, where you already packed the swimwear and the bikini and the summer shirt in the suitcase, because you haven't learned to transfer the totality of the emotion that these are the things I want. Next time I pack a suitcase to go for transmutation, I say, oh, this is what I need to be because it's warm, this is what I need. So you transfer the soul of the object with you, which is, but found to you looks a bit strange, but that has been the teaching of the Keshe Foundation. In time you understand more and more. What it is to you strange is the reality of what it is. But when you go to another planet, this shirt, this clothing, this swimwear is no good to you because there's no water. It's a desert condition and has no air, and there is no way you can go sunbathing because the object of physicality there in the condition of the environment does not allow sunbathing unless you're a stone. And a stone which can live in that environment, not a stone which is on our environment. And a lot of materials we see as a stone on this planet cannot exist in other environments, cannot exist in the condition, or is a variation of, not necessarily the same of. We call it the isotopes of it. And this becomes important for us in the first stage in the process of the transmutation. And it's essential for us to learn that we have to go to the basic. We have to go to the fundamental element of creation, which in a way is that fundamental plasma. To embed the totality of the need, the totality of the essence of what man has gained in that single structure, as we said, as we always explained, the plasma is created by interaction of the fields, collection of the fields. And then you understand, even the fields bear emotion. Even the fields bear the intelligent DNA, the strength, the narrowness of it. This strength of the field is emotion of happiness. This strength of the field is the emotion of sadness. Then you understand, even the rays carry the soul of the creator, because in essence, they become the creator of the totality of that fundamental element, which in its division then become what we call hydrogen, and its division and amalgamation and in receiving radiation from its field of its own as a ray or as a field lead to creation of the what we call heavier elements, bigger plasmas. That's all it is. We call it hydrogen, helium and oxygen and the rest of it because it has more packages in it. It's the same in the soul of the man. You have a stronger field, and what is strengthened leaves that fundamental plasma, create that essence of the totality, which contains everything. In a way, whatever you call it, your genes, whatever you call your hormones, is only effective to this planet. Because the hormone which makes something of you to be whatever, creator of emotion, creator of certain part of your body, is all under the condition of this planet. And as totality, when you move, everything moves with you. You don't move from London to New York and leave the kidney behind. And therefore,
Hello, Mr. Keshe. I think we lost your audio there. It appears that the microphone is turned off or not available.
Progress.
Sorry,
Hello.
but we are losing line because I said we are traveling. Just let me see. Then what we see is no use traveling without your kidney missing or your pancreas missing. When you transmute everything and all the attributes of creation of that entity moves as an energy field. And if you learn or live and create a condition of the same in another position in the universe and keep that constant, you'll manifest the same, what we call working of the systems. In a way, if you go to what we call these beautiful parks where you see they create the humidity, the condition, the rainfall condition of the equator in the North Pole, and you go there and say, oh, this is like being in what we call equator. That's what we do when we travel in space. When we travel with these systems, we travel with the conditions of feeding, creating oxygen and keeping it going. As long as we are on Earth with that condition and within the condition of what we call the solar system, which supports this life, we stay more or less the same. When we go to another planet, another structure of the solar system, all has to fit into the environment, otherwise you don't exist. You're finished. There's no oxygen. So what are you going to do? You cannot breathe. What's the use of the lung? What's the use of two legs when you're in a liquid environment? In the mold of the man, we call it mutation, Darwin theory, evolution. You have to evolve instantly. When you arrive in a new position, in a new destination of the time and place and space in the universe. And the only way man will realize that he will carry the essence of his life, his creation, is that original line, the essence of the creator, the essence of the fields of the energy of the creator, where all will confirm and convert to become at a point of manifestation when it will be in the dimension of the observation and observer. And this will be very hard for many knowledge seekers to understand. In a way, we convert all this, what's in the body of the man, all the memories, all the emotions, all the DNA and RNA, everything else, into one fundamental plasma, into one variation of the different fields, which create in its collection and its division according to the point of manifestation to a human body, to an alien body in another position which he or she lives in that environment, and to a dog, to a cat, or a stone. We always misunderstood. And now we have no choice, because now the fact is that the technological development understanding of the man is pushing man to that frontier to understand that what is next. How can I recreate myself? How can I be in a perfect condition when I manifest myself on the moon, on the Mars, or in whatever, in planet Zeus, or anywhere else in the universe? Man, the soul of the man, combination of creation of the life of the man cannot end just because the physicality ends. In a way, if you understand it, as I said before, the soul of the man, in essence, is a connection to the soul of Creator. The soul of Creator, the rays, the fields of essence of the motion and the division of it in a condition, atmospheric condition of the earth, has led to creation of man through evolution to what it is now, because it befits it today. It's like when you have a herd of animals in Sahara, or you have a herd of animals in Africa. One animal eats the top grass, one animal eats the middle grass, one animal eats the short grass, and they all live and live together. Because each one creates a condition for the other one to be, but in essence, they're all connected to each other, because if the top one doesn't eat the top, the one who's used to eat the bottom cannot and dies. But in essence, they all serve each other. And they all come to the same point of manifestation in different shape and sizes or whatever, to be able to survive, to mutate, to evolve, and Darwinians call it, to go through whatever they call the sense of evolution. But now we have to understand this is the sense of emotion, the sense of the fields of the creator within a structure of one plasma. We call it the fundamental plasma. And it's been there in the book 1. This is now you understand what it means. Why is it fundamental? Because the essence of the soul of the creator in the dimension of the strength of creation is within it. When you arrive as a soul in a destination on a newer structure, in another galaxy, in another universe, you're that single plasma. And every part of emotion of what you earned, learned, and whatever achieved on this planet is as fields, as rays in this plasma. So you don't carry your arm and a leg inside, and you don't carry your whatever other emotions inside as pieces. So we understand even the fields, even the rays inside the plasma carry a soul. Carry a soul in a way it means they understand the participation, and understand their position in keeping the whole structure together. And when you manifest yourself as a fundamental plasma, as an essence of one soul, everything else is carried in there. There's no arms and legs and hearts in it. Even emotions, even your genetic coding, whatever you assume, assumption and understood, is within the structure of the rays of that fundamental plasma. And how those rays interact with the environment leads to creation and manifestation of your physicality at that point and place. This is why we always have stars. And this is why each star has its own atmosphere, its own structure. We call it the solar system. When you are a star, you create your structure. This is what you are. And the emotion of what you gathered, what you started with as the first seed of that star, shows in your planetary system, shows in the structure of how many planets and dust and everything else in you. And then you understand why, as I said many times, we see planetary system on a certain points structured what we call closeness to the edge of the galaxies and universes than inside, because of compactness, because of the strength which holds. But in essence, everything we have, everything we possess, everything we have created comes from that point of the original fields. And this is where we go back to. And we become and we divide into, and according to the strength we carried in the soul of the man, in a space when there is no dimension of physicality, then become the seed of that star. And what we gathered in the strength of the field inside dictates what we absorb, what we release in that area, in that environment, in that condition, position, and time, to lead to the creation of the next cycle of life, and not necessarily life of man. But carries the emotion, carries everything else within it. And as knowledge seekers, you have to understand this. Because when it comes to the point of transmutation, you go back to that fundamental plasma. That's what you become. And then you can transmute instantly to any position and take shape, place, time, and what according to the emotion you carry inside. I want to be in New York. I end up in New York because New York has a feeling and emotion and place for me. I want to be on the moon. You land on the moon. And we have shown this by repetition in all the tests we did, that we ask people to go to the moon and they all end up in the moon, because that's the instruction within the emotion of the soul to satisfy that I want to, and I'm listening to what I've been told. And some of those who don't want to, they go where they want. As I said, one of the knowledge seekers, maybe 3 or 4 of them, came, I have no interest to go to the moon. I don't want to go anywhere. I want to go to do this. I've come here to do this. And this is for that purpose, that in the personal trials which will carry on with us, we start to narrowing your condition to become that fundamental plasma. And even as totality, all of those souls who participate to accept one to transfer the plasma into, to be released at the point and time and place and the position they want to go. I'm going as a plane from London to New York. Who wants to go to New York? I can carry. If you want to go to Texas, I can't carry you. If you want to Beijing, I can't carry you, because I'm not planned. I don't carry that strength. I'm not coded for that condition. And then you understand, we choose and we point into that way, and we go back to the essence of the creation. The teaching of Mitra. You want a perfect fundamental plasma to be. It doesn't talk on the other side that it talks good. It doesn't act good. It doesn't do good. It lives good. Because if not, it will have no position and place to manifest itself at a time, place, and position in the universe where it lands. And this is what I always said. The beauty is to be able to create, show the beauty of the creator, to be able to regenerate. We create children of ourselves to show that we have the essence of the creator. Creator let its fields, its rays to our creation. And we call ourselves creator of our children. And if knowledge seekers understand this, that how you transmute and what it means, and now further you understand even the rays within the structure of the plasma of the soul of the man carries all emotions according to their own strength fields, then man is ready to travel. Then man is ready to move on to travel the span of the universe. And if man understands this in totality and goes back to the fundamental plasma and goes back to the fundamental ray which created that plasma in initial state, which is the ray of the creator, the essence of his creation, then man has achieved, man will be able to reach his creator. In so many ways. As I said, when you look at the magnets, the space gaps, when you put iron dust on it, there's lines, you say these are a line of magnetic field. Our science has not taught us that the gap between the lines is the fields that are going in when you look at the North Pole. And that's how we go back to our creator. Within strengthening enough that the matter state manifestation of the line are irrelevant, as we are going through the space by high energy fields of strength of the fields to go to the center, to reach. And again, once we reach, we come out of the bottom of the line, which now in the present physics they call it, is where the fields goes, the South Pole. The same is with the South Pole. Where the fields go in, you see the dust lines of the iron. Where is the gap in between? Is where they come out. It's the same as electric current and eddy current. There is not only one way of circulation of the fields, it's both way. And how these two interact leads to creation of the manifestation of physicality as time, place, and position. And then in time, you understand. I have started teaching more and more about the gaps between the lines you don't see, that the lines you see in the magnetic fields. Those gaps you don't see is the gap, is a line, direction, and position to the center, to the creator. where what you see in the North Pole has already passed through the Creator. As you have a center in what we call structure of the physicality of the man, you call the soul of the man, you have the same. But what do? Why is the soul of the man positioned on top of the head of the man and not on his foot? Because you eat, you feed, you absorb energy from a universal community of strength of the fields of the universe. And as it goes out through the north side of the man, it becomes the entry to elevate the soul of the man on the top. It's very simple. In a way, if you look at it, the totality of the life of the man is nothing but to feed his soul. Nothing but to stand, to strengthen that soul. And this is all we do. We eat from this planetary system. We live in this planetary system. And in that process, we actually, without knowing, through our physical condition, feed our soul in the dimension of the life of the physical. The gap which we in the fields at the bottom of what we call the south pole of our soul is the feed and energy comes up from the physical absorption of the more fields of the universe in what we call 80% from cosmic rays and 20% from the physical matter of the planet. That what is radiated out is absorbed by the soul of the man on the top and leads to elevation of the man, leads to understanding of the man in his totality. And then our soul of physicality creates a dimension, creates like a pressure cooker for what is being absorbed, what is being digested from a physical life and a dimension of the other rays of the universe in radiating out reaches the physicality of the man. And then stayed within the physicality of the man, that it can transfer his energy on the top to the soul of the man to create his elevation. Elevation, it means to absorb enough energy that is different than the matter state creation of the field which created it. And when that point reached, man, we call it in a physical life, dies. But if you can keep the soul of the man so hungry to absorb more fields, you keep the body of the man working to feed it, you can live an everlasting life in the dimension of physicality. In a way, never allowing the top to reach the point of maturity, expand it to more and more and more, that can absorb more to stay longer in the dimension of physicality of the man. Or you transmute it, you transfer it from one position to another without the dimension of physicality, but you find a way for the soul to be fed. You embed part of that dimension of the physicality fields which feeds the soul into it, that it can create that position, embed that position. And it's where what we call the carbon 12, the carbon 14, and what we explained last week, the nitrogen comes into play. In a way, converter of 14 to 12 to the physical life, and what you gather more, you put it back in, converter of 14 to feed back into what you don't need, or feed back to the soul of the man. To bring that extra field to the nourishment of it. In a way, if I always said, if you understood, as before many times, the womb of the mother is created to create, to hold the physicality of the man with the soul inside it. I cannot supply much more, 9 months maximum. And then when you come out, now the womb of the mother is changed with the womb of the planet. But still, the soul of the man is within the womb of the physicality of body of the man. And then you understand the process of creation. And then, as I explained many times before, why the reproduction point of all the animals and everything else is in a further distance than the soul of the man. And the soul of physicality of every animal, even the plants. Doesn't matter, is above the ground or below the ground. You need that apple on the tree with the soul of the tree and the roots of the space of the earth, that the transfer of energy between the two confirms the process of reproduction and confirms that we take what it needs from the environment. In a way, if you look at it, the soul of the man is on the head. And the soul of physicality is surrounding it as a plasma. And what is absorbed in the physicality and converting the energy feeds to the soul of the man to elevate from, as you call, under and over. And what the soul feeds the body of the man to survive. And if you understood this, you understand what I tell you. The soul of the man is the feeder of the physicality. And can be. Then the man does not kill. You have to look in a very simple. The soul of the man sits on the top. The soul of the fields of the man, what digests, sits on the bottom. Whatever you absorb from the environment, even though sits that way, at the end of it will go in directions out. And as it comes in. So in a way, your body, your physicality feeds the soul of the man. To apologize, we have an internet problem and we lose pictures very easily. But you understand. And the fields is in reverse back. Rick, you have to do your screen, please. We lost the network. And then you understand, in that invisible part, that is the gap between the lines in the bottom, is where the energy comes back into the physicality of the man from the universe, from the unicos. That again goes inside the soul of the physicality of the man, that it feeds the man to absorb more from outside. In so many ways, man will understand very, very soon how he, in understanding the totality of the process of the creation, he can reproduce the energies of the universe within himself. How he can reproduce the energies of the cosmos within himself. And then how to use it to transmute. Am I a stronger field? Am I a stronger plasma than what I have created? Or has it become stronger than me as I have created? The same as I am the origin of that. I live within it, the essence of my creation. And this means man finding out, analyzing this process, can live forever in the dimension of the fields, in the dimension of the fields of the universe, the way the Creator has. And in turn, in time, This will bring man forward to another understanding of his own creation. But we need to learn this step by step. We learn to need how to transmute. We learn to need to do this because in time we become part of the process ourselves. We become part of the structure ourselves. At some points, our soul is the feeder, and at some sorts, at some points, our soul is a giver. And then we have to understand how we process this knowledge, how we come to activate it, and how we can activate it, at what position in the time of the transmutation, in the time of what we call arriving at a given point, and what we call a destination. And soon or later, man will understand this in a very simple way. As man develops new knowledge, understanding the process of the creation. And the process of creation has no computers, has no ever known any other processes except the interaction of the fields of the creation. And this process will take a long time for man to achieve. It will not happen just because you manage to transmute today. It will not happen just because you manage to do it once. You'll find out as you go through the transmutation, I went there, I did something, but I couldn't move the thing. I went back in physicality and it wasn't there. Because you have forgotten, even in the dimension of the soul transmutation, to understand the entity you want to move has a soul. I've tested this with many knowledge seekers, especially those who now we are working in a structure of what we call transmutation system. Is I tell them go home and move something. They go home and they physically, in transmutation, get a cup, move the food of the cat, and they go home and it doesn't happen. Because you have not understood. You are mixing the two. It's a AC and DC. AC does not work with the DC and DC does not work with the system which are AC. You plug it, but there's nothing there. When you move, when you go to the point of transmutation, you hold an apple which is in the house, you see, you communicate to the soul of the apple, I want you to move to the new position. That when I come, I see you there. And the soul of the apple moves. Not, I went home, I moved the key and I went home and it wasn't there. I went home, I moved the chair and it wasn't there. Because again, in the dimension of physicality, as you're used to, you took the apple and moved it. You haven't learned, you have to communicate with the soul of the apple for it to move. The story of the Italian boy in Valletta. Then when you go home, the apple has moved and it's where it is, and the cat food will be in the position you left it, not the way you left it in a physical dimension. And then you say, I can move things. Those who can move things understand it's not the dimension of physicality. And because you move the soul, everybody else will see the physicality because they're observers of it. How many times you have won lottery in your dreams and you come back, you're still a pauper in the physical life? Because you have not learned how to transfer the soul of the money you won in lottery back to the dimension of physicality to give you the pleasure. And then you say, I found the treasure because you brought the pleasure in the dimension of the soul. These are the things you knowledge seekers have to understand. And then you come to the point to understand more that in reality, the dimension of physicality is not much, but those who especially look at seeing the Keshe Foundation in the dimension of being successful here and there is not my interest. It's trying to bring the knowledge that everybody understand the essence of the creation. Doesn't matter with agriculture, with health, with transportation and the rest of it. Because at the end, it's the same. How can you produce more carrots from the same when I do? Because I carry the essence of the energy of the fields of that emotion that the carrot wants to show its best. And those who doesn't work on it because you haven't understood the essence. You were too busy, I make ganses and that. Because it's not the ganses, it's the fields. How many times I keep on repeating to you as knowledge seekers. You look for a matter for crumbs. I gave you the structure of the technology of the creation in the fields it creates, the combination, how to separate them, the one you need. And then how you use it when you achieve it. In essence, from today's teaching, you have to understand exactly what is what and what you carry, how you feed it, and what is the totality. In a way, when you leave this physical body of the man, it's one plasma of you. It's not one plasma of your arm, one plasma of your leg making you. It's one plasma of you. You become that fundamental plasma. And every fundamental plasma has a connection because it came from the source to the creator. Which light, which field, which strength of the ray in that plasma was the creator, or is connected to the strength of the creator, that he can take you back. And if as knowledge seekers you understand this, if as knowledge seekers you come to that position to be able to comprehend the totality of the teaching of today, you have learned to live in the universe. And it take you even past half an hour, 45 minutes of teaching, lifetime of man on this planet to understand fully what it is. And not just your life. So you're happy because you can use a mobile phone. It hasn't made you the engineer to manufacture it and to create it. Now you have to understand the energies, the fields which created you in the division of the totality has become you, is from the essence of the creator itself. And how they arrange themselves became your kidney, your brain, your hormones, your other things in your body, the vitamins and everything else. But they have found a way to operate to keep your manifestation. And because you have created such a condition inside the physicality of the man, and you have managed to condense it in different form, is exactly the position of the creator, which has created himself within you, and is condensed to that point, feel the strength of totality. And if you understand this, you are one step further to understand the process of creation. You get one egg to lead to creation of such a handsome and beautiful child. Now you can imagine what you received from the creator, which led to creation of you, that you could manage to transfer to create such a thing. And then if you understand the beauty of what you see as your child, you can imagine what the creator said as beauty of his own cosmos, and then his own unicosmos. Then you understand every structure has a point of infinity, but has a point of affinity, which means we have to understand the origin of life, the original fundamental plasma, which is our soul. and it's in division, and in the field it radiates, it leads to creation of another cycle of life. It leads to creation of another dimension, from a plasma to an atom of hydrogen, and then from division of the fields inside and in the environment to helium and the rest. The whole process of creation has started with one ray, but understanding how that ray has, in interaction with its environment, has led to the creation of the atom and the combination of plasmas, which call them different atoms, and the molecules and the creation. And then it goes back to one fundamental point. If that ray needed to travel in a space that in its division with itself, with the interaction of the environment itself, leads to creation of other plasmas to become helium and the rest, then the solar creator, which led to the creation of totality of the unicos of the humanity or life, needed and has an environment given to it by bigger structure, which that structure in essence is the structure, the creation and the creator of us as men, as humans. And in that process, it leads us to the next point. It leads us to the confirmation and creation of what we call another structure, another position, time and place. How we, what we call change, how we evolve, how we come to be part of, all goes back to the same process. What is the fundamental plasma? And what led to the creation of the fundamental plasma? And to what extent this fundamental plasma can, will, and will be leading to creation of the next step, next generation of life, next understanding of the totality. And to what extent we can understand the whole process of the creation. Does the fields of the soul of the man become the man? Another cycle of creation? Or would it become part of the force of totality in creation and in dimension of life of the, what we call universe? And in a way, the body of the man is a unicos on itself, with many universes, which we have chosen different name for it. Milky Way, let's say, is the kidney of the man, and another one is another lymph, and another galaxy is another point. In a way, we are replication of the life, the structure, the division of the fields, and the organization of them working within each other. We just have chosen the body of the man as a body of the man, and we call the other one galaxies, and we call it the unicos, when the man itself is the unicos. With the brain and everything else, has an emotion, has a physicality, has a control system, and so is with the unicos, which comes from the rays of the Creator. And that field can repeat itself again and again. That field can replicate itself again and again. To what extent man will come to understand this depends on the maturity of the man in understanding the process of creation. And sooner or later, as you understand more, as you have understood in the past year, then you see, I can teach this. I can teach up to now because I understood this part. And then we'll see the process of you, step by step, becoming what we call the structure of the man itself. And in that process, we become the essence, the totality of the structure. And in essence, we stay as part of that structure. But at the end, maybe today you understood how you have to transmute. What has to be a second, what we call the skin of the man, to understand the totality. And then we go to the next step. And in teaching, we understand more why we need to, in a way, to connect the whole structure of the knowledge of the man, knowledge of the creation, knowledge of the creator, together as one, for man to be able to transmute. Otherwise, you'll be the same as our knowledge seekers of today. I can transmute, I can go, but I cannot manifest myself because you haven't learned how to do. I can go home and move the apple, but when I go, the apple isn't, because up to now you move the physicality of it. You're no different in that knowledge than the boy 10 years ago in Valletta. You don't move the cup. You give pleasure to the cup, to the soul of the cup, that it'll give me pleasure to see you in that position. And for that point, for that purpose, the cup will move to satisfy the pleasure. Always remember, the soul gives. To keep the connection and to create a connection, that you do not move as my movement is giving life to you to exist. And this is part of the teaching. This is what we push. And as I said last week, the same. We have to understand which part of it comes to convert from carbon 14 through nitrogen to carbon 12, and which part of the energy of the carbon 12 converts into, within what we call nitrogen, to go back to carbon 14. Because the balance of fields of the universe always stay, and there's a limitation how much you can carry. And when it's too much to carry, that neutron divides. And once the neutron divides, it means I receive so much that in its division leads to creation of new atoms. If man one day understands even the process of the creation of atoms, you're easy to say this is copper, this is zinc, this is this, this is that. But in fact, if you understand the, what I call, let's put it, theology of the creation of the elements, then you understand that neutron, which absorb more energy, or that atom which absorb more energy in the process of the creation and the environment, that energy in life of the man, we call it a child. In the life of Adam, becomes a neutron, and it has a dimension of cycle to hold. And in that atmospheric condition within the nucleus, when it gets to a position, it splits because it cannot hold. It's exactly the same as the cell happens in the womb of the mother. They split. And so that combination creates that element. You give it a certain condition, you create that element. And if you bring all the fields together, you can create any condition, any element, anywhere in the universe. Then you understand material things has no value, because you can create as much gold and silver and everything else. What's the use? And those who stuck and get stuck with the material world, always the greed of the material world bothers them. As I said, I lived on this planet for so long. I carry not a car in my name, not a house in my name, another thing. What is on my back is what I carry. Because I know, even if it comes, when the time comes, it's not mine. Because in essence, we are fields in transition. And all our job is to give to point to that to be done. And the left is done. It's what they do counts. As you've seen, I gave many nourishment, many steps to all knowledge seekers. Anywhere in the world, you want to start something, but then it comes to the point, what did you learn? What have you gathered from it that allows you to do the job, not me to be there to always to provide? And when they fail, it's Mr. Keshe, because I understand the essence of creation. We are there to keep the seed. It's for you to nourish the seed. Because you still are entangled in physical dimension, everything is wrong with the sketch except you're looking inside. Why it failed? I am responsible for it because I never understood what was the purpose. I stuck with the physical dimension. Then you understand. That process is the same as you trying to move a cup in a physical dimension when you are in the realm of fields of the universe, when you transmute. This is when I started to talk. You end up in New York with no key in your pocket to get into the apartment because you did not manage to satisfy the soul of the key in the house. You don't need to go to New York because there's a problem there. I stay, you go. Then you understand the process of the creation and how many of you have problems with your transmutation. And if you understood this in the upcoming month of June, and then in July and August sessions, as we build up to Iran, I'll explain to you how to transmute. I'll be in there physically to teach you, holding your hand step by step. Every 5 minutes, every half an hour, every 2 minutes, putting you in next step. We're going to New York. You're sitting in Switzerland, you're sitting in Germany, you're sitting in Africa, you're sitting in United States. As a knowledge seeker, you put your soul in it. You have to understand when you go all together to one point with me, you have to understand how I satisfy the soul of my partner, that if I go, he's happy to be. How I satisfy the soul of the key, I want to bring the orange suit with me. Is it there? You don't need to talk to. You need to create the fields of the satisfaction. Talking is for them. Understanding the field of strength is the job of the soul. And this is the emotion of the soul which you have to learn. And then you understand. When you transmute, you don't need to go in the toilet of the aircraft to change your clothes from the fur skin to the bikini to land up in a warm place. It's very strange if you don't understand it. I explain to you in a very simple way. Anywhere you go, in the embassies and the governments, you go with the same clothes, you come back out with the same clothes. Except in the Iranian Republic embassies, anywhere in the world. Women come with the high heels, with the everything else, makeup and everything. They put a scarf around their head and they become Muslim. They go in there, they get their passports, they get their work done, they come out, they take it out, and they're again back European with the minis and the rest of it. You cannot do that with your soul. As I said, the love of the Creator has come from the heart of the man and not from the talk of the man. And this is where knowledge seekers have not managed to transmute. The others are not fooled that you came in the embassy just with a scarf to get your job done. Because they know what's under that scarf and how you live outside. And you cannot do the same with your Creator. Wrap it in the body of the man, blame everybody else for it, except knowing it's your own conduct which has brought you to the point, the time, and place, and position. And this is where you can transmute if you understand this. If you don't understand, all the work is nothing because it cannot show anything, because it's you who have not understood which field of your own soul to use to understand the process of the creation. I hope You learned a few things today, and I hope you can apply it to start becoming what I call the passengers of the universe. As I said many times, I always said, I'll take you to universal community, but it doesn't mean that you can become part of it if you have not understood. I can take you to the source, to the spring of the water, but I cannot teach you how to drink it if you don't want to drink, even though you put your mouth and lips on it, but you don't swallow the truth of what is the knowledge of the creation. Thank you very much. We go for a break and we come back, and I hope we can answer or share more knowledge. Rick, would you able to take us for a small break and we come back out?
Yes, sure. Thank you, Mr. Keshe. This will be the first part of the 541st Knowledge Seekers Workshop here on Thursday, June 6th. And in the second part, we have the possibility of asking questions of Mr. Keshe. So the attendees here will be able to raise their virtual hands, and then we can acknowledge you and open your microphone. And those in the chats can put their question in the chat. Okay, we'll take a short break and be back.
Water is the foundation of our life. It is part of every living creature. Pure water gives you the energy of nature. Now you can have this energy in your home. The Keshe Foundation Alkalizer and Energizer is designed for your daily well-being. It increases the pH of the water so your body can absorb more oxygen and stay in its natural condition during the day. Keshe Foundation Alkalizer and Energizer. Be pure like the water.
The new Horizontal Enhancement Spaceship Unit. A space technology that allows us to work with the fields of the universe, creating a wide range of plasma field interactions and conditions. It allows the body to process itself from any physical or emotional imbalance. Once this balanced condition is achieved, the soul and emotion of the body can follow to find their balance and elevate the whole of the man. The new Horizontal Enhancement Spaceship Unit, technology of the future through advanced plasma knowledge. The revolutionary new Flight Enhancement Spaceship unit is due to be launched in June 2022, and in the same year is expected to fly passengers into space, to the moon and beyond for a day or even several days at a time. There is no need for the Flight Enhancement Spaceship unit to carry food or medicine, as it is equipped with the latest space technology for transportation, transmutation and deep space operation. This extraordinary breakthrough technology ushers in a new era of travel without the need of fuel, food or medicine, even during the longest excursions into deep space. Each spaceship unit has a 4-passenger capacity for long or short duration flights and has the capability to travel between cities on Earth in a matter of seconds to minutes, depending on the distance and speed. This ability to traverse massive distance in such incredibly short time is not just a breakthrough for human transport, it also completely revolutionizes the transportation of goods and cargo and will rapidly overcome the need for one of our most polluting practices, namely marine shipping, as it finally breaks us free not only from the combustion of heavy diesel, but from the combustion of any fuel for propulsion in the future. The Flight Enhancement Spaceship Unit, a new paradigm in space travel, space medicine, and space technology.
Hey, we're back again at the 541st Knowledge Seekers Workshop. And it's the second half, so we do have the question period coming up. But of course, we usually have Mr. Keshe having announcements or other things he would like to bring up first. So, Mr. Keshe, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much. If there are any questions, we'll try to answer. And as usual, before we start answering any questions, today's session will be short. But in regard to Iran conference, I have to, as I said before, explain that we close the part for the knowledge seekers very shortly, because Keshe Foundation will go out to announce the demonstration of the flight unit and all the part which goes with it separately into the public domain. And a lot of people then become knowledge seekers to use the advantages of which we gave to the knowledge seekers. And once we go public, the fee which is put in for the knowledge seekers will end. Doesn't matter if you're knowledge seekers, been knowledge seekers for a long time. Once we close that gap, the fees will go to 20,000 euro, as it goes for the governments and the scientific organization to partake in such a important, what we call, presentation. So those of you who already applied or planning to apply, please complete it at least before end of June, because we'll make announcements very soon that it goes public, and we'll take that bracket off the knowledge seekers. It does not matter what it is, because then we can't say, we've been the knowledge seeker for 200 years. It doesn't count. We open this door till that time and we close it. And thereon it'll become a public presentation, and we move the fees to such a bracket. It has to be understood that the presentation in Iran will be in collaboration and close presentation of facilities provided by the Iranian government, which means, as I said before, we will not be able to show the whole demonstration inside a hotel. It has to be done in a place public and at the same time safe and secure for many reasons. So it has to be understood, part of the presentation, somewhere in between the 5 days, you will be transferred or you'll be traveling to a destination appointed by the government officials where the presentation of technology will take place. And many nations, many scientific world wants to see the change in the parameters of the science to the next step. And we, as I said before, your knowledge, because you then let us know, and you gave it to the government, and now we let you know in advance by within the next few couple of 2 or 3 weeks, we close the entry for the what we call for the conference in Iran. And it'll be the same for the Washington. Knowledge seekers, you have this advantage. After the date we announce, the fee put for the knowledge seekers demolishes, is gone. Because we will entertain governments and scientific organizations which 20,000 to be part of this is nothing for them. It's a knowledge which they're after and they'll be looking for. And meanwhile, in the next few weeks, we'll extend the presentation of the development of this technology in so many ways. And what does it mean is that the demonstration of technology and the fringes of knowledge which will be developed around it will be supported through a very big structure. And we are there as a guest of the Iranian, what we call nation, and Iranian government. And at a certain point, the technology to be shown will be outside the parameters of the hand of the, what we call the Keshe Foundation. This is where, in conjunction with the Iranian government, we'll invite the world leaders, world ambassadors, advanced technologies around the world, leading companies to be present in that presentation. Because there is not a conference which is kept in one hotel. It is a conference which then will transfer into showing the beauty of the technology developed and delivered. It cannot be done as you saw in China in the room. We cannot fly a system in a closed environment. And to be outside, we need, and our team are collaborating with the Iranian officials and the military to accommodate such a facility for demonstration in Iran. So please, whatever you're doing, you're planning to come, whatever, complete it within the next few days, a couple of 2 or 3 weeks, because we will go public as we have asked. We will ask our officials in Iran to send the invitation to all the embassies in Iran and the scientific organization to attend this presentation. In the near future, and in the sessions we'll start in July and August, we'll bring many of you into the position of understanding and being able to transmute and understand the process of transmutation. As we teach some of it in public, in the private sessions, there will be very intense teachings to go. So we announced it 3 months, July, August, September, 3 sessions coming up, which will be announced in the next few days by the Keshe Foundation. And this is to prepare to teach directly, to bring it to the point of transmutation. This is important for us as part of the structure of technology and part of what is to come for presentations around the world. It's no use going to Washington and say we can transmute, where we have to start from new to understand. Knowledge seekers are already trained and they can show how it's done, that it brings the next step into the gameplay and into the structure. So please collaborate with us as we open the technology in conjunction with governments. And as knowledge seekers, we always keep our teaching going. There'll be no way the teaching will stop, even after demonstrations in Tehran or in Iran or in Washington. There's a possibility that again in Iran we'll have 2 presentations, one in Isfahan and one in Iran, depends on the what we call agreements with the Iranian governments and Iranian, what we call the structure of the setting, which is we have to delay this till we know who's the next president, how the structure will set for second presentation. You have to understand knowledge seekers, we have taught for years, are the backbone of the creation of the peace. And when we can show in Iran, we can travel without limitation. When Washington and Iran show we can do transmute, you become the ambassadors of peace. You show to governments that borders have no meaning. You show to governments that having wealth and robbing each other's banks has no meaning, because now the banks can produce as much as they like. And in that process, in a way, I have brought you up to be the assets of peace. All your knowledge, because all of you who attended all these teachings and all the sessions, you have to understand, you become the tool of the creation of peace. The more of you we get in Iran, the more of you we get in Washington, which can show the governments how it can be transmuted, the more what has no meaning. It breaks the barrier and brings the peace. And it cannot be done. It's not just a theory. That's why we start teaching more and more of you in public and private, that it'll become, it's not just one or two, tens of you, hundreds of you can do the same. And this will set the scene for world peace, as the governments have no borders to fight for. All these naval forces, all these limitations with the landmarks of imagery in the head of the man will go to the wall. And the time for it has started. And you're the backbones to it. Try to attend the Iran conference, the Washington, because there and then we ask you to show, because you've been taught to show. It's not just a few. And when 10, 20 of you can do, then the whole nations can do. No barriers, no borders. Passport in my pocket worth nothing, because I can be anywhere I like to be. You cannot put me in prison because I entered your country illegally, because I can move out of the prison instantly. We have to bring that consciousness to the world leaders and to the government through delivery of the technology, in the essence of what it is. And we are building systems to back this up. The new systems, which are now developed and getting developed, will bring us to that position. Please understand how these sessions of next 3 months are connected to what is to be delivered. And 2024 was the premise of delivery of what we call the unification of man, the world peace, and end of the older structure. Let me know if there are any questions we can answer.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Keshe. There are questions, of course, and we have some in YouTube, a couple in the Q&A, and 2 hands up here from Azar and Mirnez. So Azar, would you like to go first, please?
Good morning, Mr. Keshe. Good morning, everyone. I have a few questions regarding the old teaching. And because, in old teaching, we didn't know as much as we know now because we are teaching. So one thing was, there was a question you brought it up that what's the purpose of our life here? We come here, we live, we eat, we do all these things, and then after that we die. And then it was interesting when you talk about the womb of mother, as if you read my mind. You see, you said when a mother carries a child and take care of a child for 9 months and give birth to a child, when once the child is born, her job is done because she gave life to a life. So we are the incubator for our soul to deliver that soul at the end of our life to the universe. It means my body as a physicality is an incubator. Now, at the end when I die, my body's gone and the soul goes to the universe and does what it needs to do. I deliver a baby. But now, with the transmutation, until now we all died. Now you came along and you say, okay, you don't have to die. this incubator, this physicality, can be used or not used, can stay in many different ways. You can have this physicality in another place as it suits according to the field of the space. So now, instead of we allow the soul to take care of this incubator the way it was, or in a way, if I want to understand it correctly, we kind of make it not to destroy this incubator. If I understand it correctly, that's one thing I want to understand. The second thing was when you talk about, somebody asked about feeling an emotion. Feeling an emotion, in a way you said is almost the same, but then what you brought up, you said, okay, the emotional part of the brain is a size of bigger than a peanut, it's bigger than a peanut, is smaller than a walnut. And that part is not your physicality that can want to cuddle and kiss and kill. That part, which is emotional part of the brain that is bigger than a peanut and smaller than a walnut, carries the field with it. That field, when it gets to the physicality, it makes you cuddle and kiss or want to kill. So my question is, so if you, now this emotion that we talk about, now you bring it into the new teaching, you're talking about this emotion is a connection between the physical soul and the soul that make you transmute. Now, if my physicality is not responsible for my action, cuddle and kiss or kill, so that emotional part of the brain that has a field, that field of it, the way strength of the field is causes me that it say I want to cuddle and kiss, and you want to argue. So how can I change the emotional part of your brain that want to cuddle, I want to kill or argue, to cuddle and kiss, and make it like mine that want to do the same? Or how can we change that to, for all humanity, that emotional part to cuddle and kiss and not to kill? That's one thing. And then how that emotional part that we talk about can put the physical soul and soul connect and then transmute. I don't know if I got it correctly.
So can you simplify this to understand what you're asking, and then we'll see what we can answer.
So
or we can all find a solution.
Okay, so I'm thinking, so how can you change that strength of emotional part of the brain of the man that everybody cuddle and kiss?
That is a fantasy world. Everybody cuddle and kiss.
So you said it has, but you said it has a strength. But how can you change the strength? We were born with that strength.
The thing is, the only thing which man has to understand, there are 2 points, is that they say the mother of invention is the need. We start inventing things when we start looking, we need something for a purpose. The mother of peace is what I call understanding that you don't need to destroy. And this is where man has gone wrong. And one of the main problems or instigators of it has been jealousy. If man understands that it needs to understand that he can have whatever he needs through the fields of the universe, if he understood the part of the teaching of today, how you feel, how you feed the soul, and then soul feeds the physicality, the way I was explaining, and the line got disconnected on the whiteboard. You'll see the the soul is much stronger. It can absorb higher strength fields in a purest form. When you eat a food, you have vitamin A, vitamin D, iron, everything else in the food you absorb. The soul of the man only just 1 second. The soul of the man only takes hydrogen level. Just 1 second, please. Then you understand how pure the energy you receive from the soul feeds everything. And you don't need to be afraid of if everything we need in a physical dimension is supplied, because it takes what it needs from it. And this is the part. Then it has no emotion. There is no need for emotion to be part of the physical life. You don't need to kill to satisfy hunger. The field you receive connects to the emotion which creates that condition of the hunger that is already fed. And this is part of the whole part which, because we don't understand, we don't see the totality, we have question about bits of it. Because in a way, it's a singularity, but it's totality. Through the soul, we can feed the man. It doesn't need to love, and it doesn't need to stop hating and the rest, because it's not fed. You satisfy all the emotional need, that there is no impurity in it. And this is what we have to understand. And part of the teaching of today was this: in that fundamental plasma, there is the essence of the strength of every emotion which the universe carries, which we know few of it. Emotion means reacting to the environment. That's why we need that emotion. We show emotion when we love someone. We don't show that emotion to every person on the street.
But Mr.
Do
Keshe,
you go
Mr.
hugging
Keshe,
from one person to another?
Yeah, but you know, Mr.
So
Keshe, the emotion.
this has to be understood. You see, when you work through the soul, these hungers, these emotions are all fed.
Did we lose you?
This is very fundamental. When you are satisfied, the negatives don't exist. And we haven't managed to reach that point. It's with everything else. This is what I was talking to this morning and yesterday, in a way of conversation, that when we bring in Iran, when we bring in Washington, show that every man can have everything, and no soul is more important than the other, would we have the kings and the queens of this planet putting their hats down? How come a farmer, a street cleaner, a doctor who knows the knowledge of the Keshe Foundation and will be public can do the transmutation, but a king and a queen can't? You will see this coming up. And then, who's jealous of being a king? Who's jealous? Oh, the king will put the hat down. Nobody wants to carry the kingship because with that comes a lot of attention. Me, I have to have everything. And when you carry the physical things like the power, the properties, you're too heavy to let the soul go. You cannot fly. You're anchored. The jealousy will be those who stole so much in world leaders who cannot do what you can do with a pure heart to transmute. Very soon the time comes that the richest people in the world, the kings and world leaders, will give everything to have that the single knowledge seekers can do by transmuting, seeing the world, knowing how to do it, and they can't. Because in doing, they're not sure if they come back, the wealth will be here for them. Attachment to detachment, that'll be their problem. So don't worry about what can we do with that. We learn gradually as knowledge seekers. You will see. You don't need to hug. You have to learn that you're hugged by the Creator. Is how much of it you want to feel. That's what it counts.
Mr. Keshe, when we talk about there's two things. When we talk about this is my understanding. I mean, this is what I felt. Like, we can have control over emotion. I give you an example. For example, you want to take me for chilo kebab, and I like chilo kebab and always have.
Start with that, Ella. Don't start with that at all.
No. I'm giving you an example. You want to take me for chilo kebab. You said you want a chilo kebab, and I like both chilo kebab and korma sabzi. And I said no, I want to have korma sabzi. So either I can say I have two. I can create a mayhem with you, and I say no, I don't want chilo kebab. I want korma sabzi. And you say no, I want to take you for chilo kebab. And I say no, I want korma sabzi. So I get to make an argument. Okay. You want to take me for chilo kebab? I love to have a chilo kebab, and I just go with you and have a good time. But then I choose what kind of an emotion, what kind of environment I want to create with you, because this is in my control. So the emotion is in my control. Another thing I want to talk about, the feeling of emotion, like for example, joy. For example, you give me chilo kebab, I become happy, yes? That's one thing I notice that I experience. So another thing is sometimes you wake up or you're sitting, suddenly this joy, like a fountain, bubbles in you and you don't know what's going on. So there's a different kind of a joy that's come one from somebody gives you something is happened inside of you, which is no reason. So, and another thing you said today, you said when you ask the cup to move, when you make a connection with the soul of the cup moves, or any other thing. So isn't it the same thing? Instead of trying to connect with every single thing on this planet, when Jesus says, seek the kingdom of God first, everything else is added to it. So if I connect to the Creator, everything else is going to be moved by the Creator.
It doesn't, you see, when you listen, Azarjan, it's very simple. I have never ever seen anywhere in any of the whatever books to write about the bad things about the God. Even in Quran, the 100 names of God is attributes. Yeah?
Yeah.
The beauties of it, what it gives. So the opposite things, what we talk about in life of man, to what we give as attributes of God, and part of it is emotion of the names or emotion, does not exist once you're satisfied, once you have it. You understand?
Yeah.
And what we give, you sent me a beautiful point today. I've listened to it maybe 20 times because it has a meaning in the essence of the soul. That poet, the way she sings it, I love the way she sings. I know her very well, and the way she recites the poetry of Iran. But it has a meaning. In that poet, it says, you can say it better than me with my Farsi. It says a guy goes to hell, and he tells the keeper of the hell, "Why am I here? I prayed for 70 years, day and night. I did everything correct. What have I done wrong that I'm in this hell after having 70 years serving the Creator? He says, because you're in hell, because you, in a way, what do you call it, falsified or accused your neighbor of a wrong
gossip.
thing.
Gossip.
Yeah, that you ruined 70 years of a good man's life with your wrong accusation. And that wrong accusation has brought you to hell. Forget about yourself for 70 years. This is the essence of creation. We have to get everything right. Not even one thing wrong. And to get everything right, it goes back to the essence of the creation. Detachment. And knowing what you ask for, what you get, what is the purpose of it. All my life, I never asked and I never went for anything which belonged to the others. But when I did, it was because to serve the humanity. For what it comes to be. And this is the creation and the creator is the essence of life. We don't need to. I can live a beautiful life without going through all these hassles of life. But at the end is what we detach ourselves from. And what we attach ourselves to, because detachment comes from the Creator. So whatever you talk about is meaningless when you live in the dimension of the fields of the universe, because it's there, whatever you need is there.
Thank you, Mr. Keshe.
You're welcome. It's the essence of the work is we don't go for, we don't sit for, we live to serve for. And this is the way I look at it. Sitting here in Austria, or sitting here in Tehran, or sitting in whatever, doesn't change the mission of life. As long as we don't understand, we'll leave the past. Once we understand, we have to live by the laws of the future, which is a universal law, which is the Creator's law. And there is no negativity in it, because everything is giving. The negativity never arises. It's like when I was in China, I always say, I wrote to one of our dearest knowledge seekers very recently. They say, oh, China is an open prison. I said, no, you never understand. The Chinese government puts so much things out that people don't commit wrong to make prison for them, to get them to correct when it's wrong after they've done. And this is a misconception of everybody outside China. China is a closed society. It's like a prison. People can't do it. They get their things done. In the West, we build us all the guns and everything to create man to do wrong, to kill and to rob and things, and we create a huge class differences that there comes. The Chinese government doesn't do that. The Chinese government says, you do this, this is your punishment, it's straight away. And it's done. You are isolated from society. People don't do it not to get to that point. Then they don't need to build prisons and put all the guns. In China, it's very interesting. If you go to a shop to buy a knife, they want your license, cutting knife for the kitchen. I went to buy a knife once. They said, do you have your ID? We need your ID to know who's buying the knife. In the West, we walk into shops and we buy any kind of knives. And I was walking the streets of Vienna a few days ago. There are knife shops with all sorts of knives behind the window. Does anybody ask for a certificate or license? Why are you buying it? No, Chinese do that because when you bought a knife and they registered it to you, then you're responsible. You know the consequences of it. You don't use a knife to do whatever. There's much more restriction in buying a cutting knife than going to a shop in America buying a machine gun. So our life has come to a point that we don't create the condition to do wrong, than being afraid of punishment not to do wrong. I lived in China for so long. How do you see accidents? There's a lot of accidents. How do you see any? You never see drunkenness. You never see fight on the street. You go out one night in Manchester City or any cities in Europe, fights and drunkenness and everything else. The society has brought so many direct eventuality that does not allow to happen. And this is what people don't understand. And this is the same with this world. We have to create so much good within us that the bad doesn't exist. And those who want, because they don't get their way, they try to create everything bad that doesn't show what they've done bad too. We've seen that in China. We did so much, we invested so much in China. And those who could not manage it, then they blame Foundation for not doing it. Millions was put into China. With the goodwill that the Chinese will grow it. You cannot keep on feeding till it comes. You have to draw a line. Their incompetence now is our fault. And they go to knowledge seekers right everywhere that they don't say, Mr. Keshe spent so much money for us, we couldn't manage it. We failed the nation, we failed the Chinese. It's Mr. Keshe's problem. No. Blind man can see. Their incompetence has created a condition we can't be on top of everything. It's the same with the creator. Man's incompetence is man's problem, has to solve for himself. Those who fail the others blame the others for their failure, because it's their own incompetence. And then they accuse. We see this now in the Chinese community heavily, with 2 or 3 people going, but they don't say we mismanaged. We were incompetent. We see the same in other structures. And it's the same all over the world. And then they go and accuse what is wrong, they don't say, I am the one who caused this problem. I stand for it. They accuse them, they did this too. But the Chinese structure doesn't allow that to come. They handle with the kindness of the mother, with the iron fist of the father. And the man follows the path. Then you don't need to do anything wrong. You don't need to hug everyone. You love everyone that's on the street without hugging, because the way you live correct allows them to live correct. When you as knowledge seekers, and those people around you who talk, when you can lose your phone on the streets of New York, on the streets of London, in Paris, or in Beijing, or in China, and you can get it back in 1 hour, then you live in a safe society. Then the society lives by its law. And this happens in China. It doesn't happen outside. I got my phones broken, the car broken to steal a phone. I left my phone on the streets in China. Within 1 hour was back in my hand. Then you understand the difference, how we create that condition for ourselves. And then you understand why I worked so long, for 7 years, till I gave up with the Chinese structure. Because of the Chinese failing themselves and blaming the others for it. But the Chinese structure has allowed the growth for it. Our own failure causes us blaming for others for it. Because we don't want to accept, I failed, that they caused their failure. Any other question?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Keshe. We have a hand up with Mehran as well here, so let's go ahead with that before we get into our other questions in the chat.
I would like to finish I'd like to finish in half an hour or so, as fast as we can,
Okay.
because it's nearly 2 hours. Please.
Okay, very good. Mehran, could you go ahead, please?
Yes, thank you, Rick. Thank you, Mr. Keshe. Hello, everybody. Thank you for enlightenment and what you all always do. And my question is, in the universe, could we have the creation like the humans which are genetically defected? Can we have creations of planets that clash other planets and they create disorder? And how could universe take care of this?
We always look at disability or failure in what you say, people with a defect, but you have to understand, you look at the physical side, you don't look at the soul. The soul of the man who's handicapped could be 1,000 times closer to the creator than the man who wears a beautiful frock and runs like a marathon.
Yes, of course.
Imperfection. And this is where the difference comes. Because the man who's handicapped has suffered, and the whole Chinese proverb says, suffering makes the man wise, and wisdom makes the man rich. Not necessarily in the pocket, in reaching the soul of the creator. Understanding the process of creation. And this is the way we look at it, and there's always, through interaction of the fields, conditions that it looks defect to us, but it's beautiful within the structure itself. So there is no defect. It depends on which side of the fence you sit.
So there's
And
nothing,
it depends. Pardon?
there's nothing who creates disorder in the order.
What do you mean?
Disorder means
there is no
the
disorder. There is
children,
order in disorder. It just depends what that disorder nourishes within, not how it looks from outside.
Yes, thank you. So it's
Understand?
always the order.
There's always, it's like I always go back. I had the privilege to work with Ceausescu government prior or after, either way, during the time. Romania was one of the richest countries in Europe. And that's why they went for it so rapidly to get rid of Ceausescu. People had everything to eat, and the nation had no debts, and was exporting more than importing. And more or less, people had enough. They didn't live in the luxuries of, fake luxuries of the West, but the nation was solid. And now, in Romania, you have the problem. The people who were happy living the life, having everything, now they can't afford anything, because the prices are European prices, wages are Ceausescu time prices. It's the same with most of the Poland, Czech Republic, all the Eastern Bloc, they call them. The West had a problem because it looked there's something wrong with them. They had everything we didn't have. And we had to do it to create them to be the false to be. The same with Libya. The same with Syria. And it's amazing how our misinformation creates a wrong image in us regarding to what we see, and then we act up on it. It was very interesting listening to a part of news in the past few weeks. Many of you might have listened to it, must have heard of it. The president of Syria was invited to be in Beijing for whatever they had about the Olympic, whatever. And it's the first time the president of Syria traveled out of Syria in 10 years, because he was stayed in to keep his nation together. And he fought with them. He bunker to bunker in every way to keep his nation, not to let the central bank go. And now, after 10 years, he felt safe enough to travel to China for the first time. And on the return, he traveled back through Iran to see the Iranian leadership, and back to Syria, which they supported and backed each other so heavily. But the interesting part of this was that 2 points. In traveling from Syria to China, 3 different nations supported his plane, and China for the first time wrote the Chinese flag on the aircraft that he carries the president. It's a Chinese territory on air that nobody could touch. From Damascus to Iranian Middle East, the plane was supported by Egyptian Air Force. Iran supported it all the way, the Iranian military air force, escorting through to the third nation, which with the help of India and the others, was safely landed in Beijing. What is made to be so wrong is so perfect to the others who see on the other side. But the second comment was that the European commentator says, after 10 years this president comes, but he's wearing like a second-hand shoe, that he cannot afford it. And it was the same, so ridiculous that a man, a president, presenting so immaculately with his wife, had still to be, what you call it, demeaned by a broadcaster about the show, which wasn't true. It's just because you cannot show it, you can talk what you like, and what you believe, and what you perceive. And this is what we are. We always look to not to be part of totality. We try to mean to be separate and something special and different. And we create all these wrong things about the others, about what we do and what we believe. And it goes from our governments to our nations to our everything else. Even comes to the animals and the trees. And this is where we have to change. We have to understand the soul of the man, and not what the man wears, how he looks, and how he sits. Any other question?
Yes, I have another question. I learned from other. The question is, I have a feeling that the humility of soul is different from soul of physicality. So sometimes
souls never get humiliated. Souls
Pardon?
never get humiliated. Souls are there to serve. There is no humiliation in the level of the soul.
But the problem is sometimes in occasions, unexpected question, we can see the humiliation goes out of the window, and then we regret by lack of understanding of situation. So how can we
This
have
comes,
all
this comes from our upbringing in Iran.
Exactly.
It's a culture. It doesn't exist in reality.
You have to fight it because it always brings regret and not feeling good.
Yeah, this is force-fed in our culture.
Yes, sure. So in one word, what do you advise to keep the humility of humbleness of the soul of physicality?
No, it's just live the life as it is.
Okay.
Live the life as it is, with no pretenses, with nothing. And it's a different way of living, but it's the way which you live. We don't need pretenses.
Thank you very much. Thank God. God bless you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thanks for all your support.
You're welcome. It's an honor.
Any other question?
Okay, let's move into our Q&A questions here from the top. Achilles Thaw says, Mr. Keshe said that we absorb 80% of our energy from the universe. And in the third book, it's written that less than 20% of the total mass of the universe consists of 5% of the matter mass and 15% of transition mass. My question is, how should we interpret this in a dynamic GANs reactor? Thank you.
It's the same. In the dynamic reactors, you only take what you need. but everything is available. Instead of waiting for the whole universe for you to connect, in these systems, we have provided everything in a miniature scale. It's very interesting. These dynamic systems. I was present in the lab 2 or 3 days ago when we opened one of them. And when you look at it, the structure is like a plaster thing inside. And I thought, how much did we put in there that we gain so much mass in? And so much mass in these small reactors, it's like a paste inside it. It has created a paste. And these reactors run very, very short time. Maybe a couple of hours they've been tested. And you see the same mixture, even though they have different mixtures, the same structure color in them. And so we have provided balanced fields in these systems. You take only what you need, not more. But what you get from all the fields of universe is in one abyssal. You can't overeat. We don't put people inside size 6 and they come out size 16 out of the machine. If you could measure the fields of the man, from hunger to his thirst to his greed, you go in the machine, you come out different man. Because he's satisfied, he creates all the fields you need. And it's still the same. Instead of you eating every day, you get all of it. One of the reasons we stopped the resource is because they make so much noise. There's so many motors running. You have to understand, 32, 34 motors run at the same time in a 2-3 cubic meter, and it's deafening. With the new system, it's silent. Most of you, when you go on the headphones, is obviously in a static condition. And then you understand, you don't need to. You absorb inside what you need, and that's all it is. You don't absorb anymore. Till the balance comes within the physicality, within the soul of physicality, and within the emotion of the man, and you walk out of the system. The whole essence is to produce the fields of the universe and try to produce the fundamental field, which is the strength of the creator. Then you have access to all of it. And some of the reactors we produce have that, but you have not, within the structure of the man, that string is not strong enough to be able to match to the system. Otherwise, every single person will reach the purity of reaching the creator's level. It's been divided and decoded so many times through its division across the universe. But still there's a side of it. Still you can reach part of it. And if somebody has the right strength of it, that's why some children are born what we call physically dead at the point of birth. Because they already reached that point. In the process of the womb of the mother, the beauty of the creation has completed in reaching the soul of the creator's love. There's no need for the manifestation of extension of the physical life. One day you understand what this means. It's said, if I tell you how beautiful it is, on the other side, you all commit suicide. But that's not the essence. It's the maturity of the soul, which comes because that soul has to lead to creation of the others. Any other question?
Okay, thank you. Let me see here. Let's go with the Q&A. Antonio says, thank you, Mr. Keshe. Rick, my question is, Mr. Keshe, you spoke about last week hydrogen and carbon-14. My question is the mystery of water, which I which I still am discovering has hydrogen, and in my mind must be significant. Would you be so kind as to expand on your understanding of the properties of water in our universe?
The water, the way we have it, is not the living essence of the creation, which means that every created thing needs water. Everything in the universe needs a dynamic flow. Does not need to be matter state of it. If you can create a dynamic flow in the field of the universe, you create life. And in the body of the man, in the structure of this planet, happen to be hydrogen in conjunction with the extension of the nitrogen itself we call oxygen. If you take oxygen isotopes and you take nitrogen isotopes, you see a lot of them match. And that level is where we connect to universal fields. Oxygen, hydrogen in combination in a certain level, and in a way lead to creation that are created out of the carbon-14, which is connected to universal fields. And the matter state connects to the matter state connection fields, which is carbon-12. We always look at one, but this is the limitation of the science. But if as a nuclear physicist and plasma physics, you understand that certain fields behave, look, but in essence are of the other. And this is what life is, what the extension of water is in the human life. On the other planet, other position in the universe, there is still life, but there is no water. But the dynamic connection to both the universal fields and the localized fields are created through interaction of the fields themselves. Wherever, in whatever you find life, even a stone, you have to have a connection to feed, to sustain energies from cosmos, from the mother, and local atmosphere of the earth, condition of the gravitational field of the earth. But you're still at the gravitational field of the universe, which is from the interaction field of the creator. No life, no physicality can conclude, can manifest without a connection to the universal field, because local fields cannot sustain life.
Well,
do
we
not
have a question.
produce the condition to sustain life. Pardon?
Well, we have a question from Claudia that ties it. Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Keshe. Continue if you'd like. We have a.
I'm listening. I keep on losing. I have problem with my internet today. Okay, repeat again, please.
Well, let me tie in a question from Claudia that goes along with what you're saying here, and I wanted to get her question in. She says, well, first of all, thank you for your explanation about the breathing, because it opened a new window of knowledge. Thank you. And she says, yesterday we were talking with other knowledge seekers about hormones, and in the teaching of the 376 Knowledge Seekers Workshop, you told us the hormones is one of the first substations, which comes from the interaction of the soul of the man's physicality with the soul of the man itself. It's where the body in the center of the brain creates what you call hormones. Hormones are the center of the first, one of the first step down from the strength of the soul of the man. And in space, mankind will live through hormones. So that was a quote. My question is, what is the correlation between the hormones and our emotions, and between the C14 and how the hormones behave during the transmutation process? Thank you.
The hormones, all hormones carry hydrogen base in field strength, all of them do. And this is how they're connected to the soul. And in the dimension of conversion to physicality, they connect through carbon-14 or to a nitrogen. And in transmutation, you have to understand what element and the point of manifestation will be that bank of conversion. What field the strength of which plasma. On Earth is nitrogen. It's like a transformer. It's a converter. And the difference between what it receives from the environment and what it receives from the body allows it to operate. And if you even understand this process in a step after the hormones, and what the hormones do is why you shed skin all the time, why you change your skin every day, why animals change their skin all the time. Because without converting or producing oil in certain animals to remove the skin away from what it is, we will not be able to absorb constantly the fields we need from the universe, or what we need to give out to universe. That becomes the barrier. This is the only reason we shed the skin all the time. Because we will not be able, if we keep the same skin from the day we were born, within days we die. Because we don't receive the fields. And we can't give what we don't need. But so the skin automatically regenerates to keep that freshness that we can absorb it. It's the same process, the same procedure. We need the hormones are part of the structure of stepping down fields, and even part of the hormones, because they come through the soul and the interaction of the fields of this, because soul of physicality in different part of the body, they participate in the creation of emotion. That's their job. You cannot jump it. It's part of the process. At certain levels, they interact and then they create hormones which they say makes you happy, or this is responsible for this or that. Because it's part of the step going down, creates the fields which in the brain of the man is needed. But you have to understand hormones, as I said before in some of the teaching. This is why we can't produce some of the hormones outside, because it has part of the structure hormone, if you understood what I just said, is connected to emotion, which is a field-wise. If you manage to create the fields of the part of the brain as emotion in a machine, you can create any hormone. If you talk to the people who are expert in these things, some of the hormones is producing, because if you remember a couple of weeks ago when I showed the circles that the emotion creates the fields, is not in the machine. Machine doesn't carry the emotion, so you cannot produce it. If we can create field strengths of the emotion, our machine will produce the hormones. And this is what at the present science we don't understand. And it's, once we go through this process of understanding this, then you understand how hormones are connected to emotion, because emotion, and then when the emotion feeds this fields, the hormone picks it up, so it's connected, this hormone connected to that emotion, because that strength field allows this condition of the fields to be created, called hormones. Without it, doesn't exist.
Okay, Mr.
It's like
Keshe,
putting an egg of an elephant. Pardon?
Go ahead, sorry.
What do you mean, go ahead?
Continue your egg and elephant story there.
Yeah, I said you cannot put the egg of elephant into another animal and expect it to grow. because it doesn't create a emotion and a field of the womb of the elephant inside that animal.
Okay, Mr. Keshe, we have like 2 minutes left before you have to go. Can you entertain Gail's question, who I'd like to tie in with Claudia here? Gail's interested in the nitrogen 14 and the storage of C12 and C14 energy related to DNA and RNA. And how do we use isotopes related to hormones to transmute in the universe? What role does the nitrogen 14 play?
The nitrogen 14 plays its role in the matter state of the physicality of the man in this condition. And
you mentioned that it's in every cell of the body, which is part of your question.
The body of the man. You cannot create the cell if you don't have a nitrogen. It's an impossibility. Amino acid is Mr. Cohen. Nitrogen is part of it. The storage and conversion is at the same time in the same structure.
Now, can you clarify that in the 540th Knowledge Seekers Workshop, the last one, we heard that nitrogen 14 acts like the liver in storing the C12 and C14 energy? Or did you mean that the C12 and C14 energy is stored in the liver, like literally?
It's a converter. It's a converter. The carbon 14 comes from one side of the universal energy, the carbon to connect us to, and the carbon 12 comes from our physical part of the matter state of this planet. And in that process, what can be changed from 14 to 12 and what 14 creates, which fits into residual of the field of the carbon 14 to attract out, work. So when we talk about the carbon 14 to be the liver, at the same time is a transformer. It transfers energy, and this energy change from energy of the plasma of the 14 to 12 and 12 to 14 creates a dynamic motion which runs what we call the amino acid. And it's the same in different creation. We need that potential difference in field strength to create the dynamic structure within it, and that's the purpose of the nitrogen. We call it the liver. It's all the same. It's one way storer, another the same. To store, you have to attract. So it creates that transformer condition as well. When you go through a liver, at certain points, all the, let's say vitamin C is not stored everywhere. It's stored where the liver creates the condition magnetic fields of the, what you call vitamin C. And then it has another process within the same structure which transfers it and transforms that vitamin C to vitamin A using fields in limbs. It does dual job. It's not just the liver, but it's a transformer at the same time in both directions. And that comes through the strength field difference between 14 and 12. And part of this in the body of the man is lubricated, made easy through omega-3. That's why omega-3 is so important in the operation of the body of the man. It helps nitrogen to keep the amino acid structure going, and the amount it gives, it allows it to survive. And this is one of the reasons vitamin, what you call it, omega-3 we call it, because again, it's a hydrogen-based element connected to what we call universal energy, which is so important in life of the man, and any deviation from it can create also some problems. It's a lubricant. It's the catalyzer for the operation of conversion of the carbon 12 and carbon 14 in the nitrogen or in the structure of the life on this planet. Thank you very much for today. And sorry about this, I have to stop. And we'll hopefully gather together again next week and see what we can learn more. Thank you very much, Ray.
Thank you, Mr. Keshe. Thank you. Okay, any remaining questions you can carry over till next week, please, and we'll get them answered. Okay, thanks very much, Mr. Keshe, for the 541st Knowledge Seekers Workshop here on Thursday, June 6, 2024. Our next public teaching workshop is the public meeting for testimonials, which comes up on Monday, June 10th. And that starts at the 8 p.m. Central European Summertime time slot. And we look forward to testimonials from various knowledge seekers who have experienced the power of the plasma technology and are willing to share it with others. And it's a good opportunity to help pay back for that gift of the plasma knowledge to do that, to share it with others. So if you have something and you're willing to come forward to the public with it, we really appreciate your input on that day. Again, that's Monday, June 10th, starting at 8 p.m. Okay, I think that's it for now. And again, thank you everybody for being here for today's workshop. And see you in the next public teaching. If not before then, we're going out with our usual flight enhancement spaceship unit music version, and bye for now.